Okay, the SolarWinds recent report, you highlight that I think 77% of IT teams lack full visibility across today's, I guess, pretty much standard hybrid environments. Why, perhaps we can start with why has visibility become such a critical issue in today's IT landscape?
Yeah, visibility is now foundational because most IT estates aren't necessarily centralized. They span on-premise, cloud, multi-cloud applications, databases, and they all interact in real time. And in that world, and especially with AI and automation, it's only as good as the context that they can see. So visibility, especially around the data, is certainly paramount. As you probably saw in some of our reports, the report that you referenced, 83% of our respondents said that AI is only as effective as the breadth and quality of the data it can access, obviously. And 67% reported at least moderate fragmentation in their environments. And so, from our perspective, the problem isn't necessarily more data, it's fragmented data and workflows, and how those teams are accountable for ensuring resilience. And so, why unified hybrid visibility, which is where we really focus on, and why it matters so much, is that you can't correlate what's happening across where those workloads are, where there's on-premise cloud and infrastructure applications and databases, and manage incident workflows in a high hygiene and efficient way. And you end up reacting late, validating manually, and spending too much time stitching things together. And so that's why we focus heavily on just bringing visibility together in a single pane of glass.
Yeah, and in terms, I think you've alluded to that, but maybe you want to say more. Organizations are clearly balancing a lot of legacy infrastructure with cloud, cloud native systems. In terms of the challenges of that hybrid model when it comes to monitoring observability, yeah, just be good to understand
Yeah.
why it's so difficult. I know, for example, I don't know if it's still the case, but trying to find out what's going on in the cloud isn't always as easy as maybe the assets that you own yourself. But yeah, just tell us a little bit more about the challenges in this environment.
Yeah, we talked just a moment ago about the challenge of data fragmentation. Hybrid estates create disconnected telemetry, multiple management planes, inconsistent data models, which we discussed, and too many handoffs between teams and tools. So you kind of have this swivel chair problem, which makes it harder to detect issues and understand the root cause. A second big challenge is operational complexity. Teams are being asked to monitor modern cloud services and long-lived legacy stacks or core systems at the same time, and while still driving business impact and maintaining governance. And so we at SolarWinds see this clearly in customer environments. The hybrid visibility has to span networks and infrastructure and databases that we discussed, topology, CMDB, and teams are forced back into that swivel chair situation, given that data fragmentation challenge.
And I think that the report reveals that over half of the respondents say they have or they use too many tools. So I guess that means they have too many tools. I mean, is the industry suffering from tool fatigue? And how can organizations simplify? I know, this single pane of glass, wherever it comes to software, is the holy grail, and everyone seems to think that perhaps will never be achieved. But how much simplification can organizations do when it comes to the observability stack, at least?
Yeah, there's real tool fatigue. I'd frame it more around context fatigue, given the dynamics and the differences between a modern stack and a legacy stack, et cetera, and straddling that fragmentation challenge. But the problem isn't necessarily simply the number of tools. It's each tool sees only part of that environment. You have to stitch it together, and it forces humans to do the correlation work themselves. And so the fragmentation limits what AI can do and increases the manual intervention, and it just stretches the teams themselves. And so the path forward from a tools consolidation standpoint is around a platform that can unify that telemetry across all of those various environments and the incident context across those hybrid environments. And so, practically speaking, that means fewer disconnected point products and data silos, stronger alert correlation, stronger incident lifecycle, and an AI layer that can sit on top of that shared data foundation rather than bolting intelligence on top of those data silos, which creates that challenge.
And rather depressing, at least to my mind, because I know collaboration has been talked about for many years, and getting rid of all these silos. But the report shows, I think it's three-quarters of teams are still struggling with cross-team coordination. Are there any particular practical steps? Bear in mind, as I say, it's not a new problem that businesses can take when it comes to improving collaboration between, say, the network, infrastructure, and application teams.
Yeah, I mean, the first is to kind of create that shared operational picture and that kind of consolidated visibility, that single pane of glass, so that the teammates can be looking at the same data instead of data in silos. And so, if network and infrastructure, database and application teams are each working from different tools, then they operate in silos by nature. And so, unified observability provides that single pane of glass view and shared incident context, which obviously is going to help accelerate remediation. The second piece to it is also workflow around the incidents, not necessarily organizing by org chart, so to speak. And so, shared alert correlation and common escalation paths, the consistent run books and automation workflows within it. And so, again, it just goes back to the more tools, the more siloed operations and the more siloed workflows. And so, to enhance the collaboration and coordination amongst teammates, solving that data fragmentation challenge and getting single consolidated visibility actually is that first step to make sure that they're all operating with the same visibility, but also the same workflows.
And in terms of, you say that getting that unified view, I know historically that we had sort of AI ops and we had network monitoring and various other tools. Is there Have those evolved into unified, or is there a sort of native observability unified platform out there? Where are we with the the different solutions for addressing the problem you've described?
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, with the data fragmentation, it minimizes the impact that the use of AI can apply, especially in this new agentic world. But proactive observability is spending less time chasing symptoms and more time focusing on preventing impact. And so, from an AI perspective, anomaly detection and dynamic thresholds and forecasting and capacity planning and root cause assistance, helping teams work together to identify abnormal behavior and mitigate issues before they happen. And so, you know, shifting, human effort on the stack, allowing, noise to be reduced is certainly something that we are focused on, such that we're not chasing ghosts, so to speak, but really having the teams focus on real incidents. And so the research within the report shows 77% of the respondents expect IT to become more proactive over the next few years. And teams already report spending less time on reactive troubleshooting and more time on strategy and prevention by some of those capabilities that we've unlocked around anomaly detection, forecasting, capacity planning, root cause assistance, et cetera. And so we're seeing a real impact.
Okay, yeah, because I was going to come on to that. So you do talk about shifting from what we might call firefighting to resilience and proactive observability. So I suppose the other part of that is you mentioned anomaly detection, etc. But um, how automated can that become, and how much do we still need or want to have a human being sort of check the homework before it allows, significant changes to be made?
Yeah. I mean, governance is going to be key. A big part of the AI thrust that we're in right now, from AI ops to generative AI, and now with the new agentic AI. It's kind of this core shift from operators to orchestrators, and AI is taking on more of the repetitive analysis, the summarization of incidents or correlation and anomalies that we discussed before. And putting humans more in a position to govern workflows. You mentioned it before. I mean, at the end of the day, the guardrails and the governance of how AI is going to be used is paramount. We call it kind of the control plane. And so certainly the technology can allow for autonomous execution of jobs to be done. But at the end of the day, the orchestration layer and that control plane needs to make sure that the rails are put into place and that the customers are in control of what those technologies or agents actually can do. And so explainability is an important aspect that we think a lot about. Those guardrails obviously are paramount. But certainly, a human in the loop model, as you mentioned, is something that will need to be there. And for the more mundane, low impact items, you might allow for autonomous operations or workflows to be executed. But certainly, the controls need to be put into the operator's hands.
And in terms of how AI is already changing the way teams approach monitoring and incident response, and I don't know if there are concrete examples around things like reducing alert noise, speeding up root cause analysis and stuff, and where you think it can, how far it has to go, before it's sort of truly optimized. Just your thoughts, I suppose, to where we are now and how it's already
Yeah.
helping and what's possible into the future.
Yeah, I think it's an exciting time, even just over the past few months, as we look at the agentic AI impact and the approach to driving outcome-oriented capabilities within our solutions for our customers to drive and maximize operational resilience. And so at SolarWinds, we see AI as becoming operational layer across observability, incident response, and ITSM, not just a sidecar. And so we're building around our SolarWinds AI agent that we have announced. Our SolarWinds agentic framework is actually where that's built technically. We have AI by design, which is a design principle that certainly focuses in on these governance and control mechanisms and security and transparency. And so the goal is to let the teams interact with these complex environments through natural language, automate more of the diagnostic path, and move towards this outcome-driven operations with these clear guardrails. And so, again, I think that there are tremendous tailwinds on the evolution that we're living in literally as we speak. And I believe the operational resilience that we're going to be able to continue to deliver to our customers, such that they are still in control operationally from an autonomy standpoint with human in the loop mechanisms, et cetera. But this new agentic phase and chapter, I think, is going to be substantial on the type of operational resilience we're going to be able to deliver to our customers.
Again, there's clearly a lot of sort of optimism and excitement around the potential of AI, but also some concerns around the security issues, maybe skills, and even ever increasing complexity, whether that's AI or just the IT stack seems to be getting increasing complex. So, are there any one of those that you think is particularly sort of problematic, or are they all equally need to be addressed? Just your thoughts, I suppose, as to any significant barriers there might be in the progress of AI and observability.
Yeah, I think it comes down to security and anxiety. But I think it kind of boils down to trust, which again shows whether from a security standpoint, the governance concerns, and the need to constantly feel like you need to validate the AI outputs, which is why explainability is also important. And so, again, in the report, 71% said the biggest friction is having to double check AI outputs, which obviously is not all that efficient. And 43% said data privacy and security anxiety prevents effective use. And so the way to tackle that is not with a single training session or policy memo, et cetera. It's about adopting an AI by design or a governance operating model with clear policies and guardrails, secure data flows, define autonomy boundaries, human in the loop controls. And again, how we've built from our agentic framework is to ensure that that control plane and that governance layer is there so that our customers have those in their hands. And that's kind of the philosophy that we've built in our AI by design philosophy, our solutions moving forward so that our customers can have those controls. And so, structured training of the teams is certainly important, but to be able to build and deliver on that trust there needs to be transparency and explainability, but also that control plane and those guardrails are going to need to be there to alleviate some of that anxiety about what might happen if I provide and allow for these agents to have more operational autonomy, which is why, again, the human in the loop model and being in control is important for our customers.
And in terms of AI adoption, um, are we potentially going to see some significant geographical differences? I mean, there are in other areas, but I'm thinking by and large, cybersecurity, whether you're in an industry sector or not, there's a fairly common approach to that. Do you think that AI might be less clear in terms of how it's going to be regulated across the globe, or do you think because there will be industries driving it, etc., that we will end up with a sort of common set of AI rules for everyone?
Well, I mean, I think it depends on the environment. We're definitely in an interesting time, again, just over the past 4 months with respect to this agentic phase. Um, and, regardless of region, we still have most of, corporations in the world dealing with this hybrid data fragmentation challenge that we discussed before. And so depending on what region and or what industry and vertical you may be dealing with more regulated environments or otherwise. And so we're still going to be dealing with this visibility challenge. But I do think that, whether you're in an air-gapped environment or straddling hybrid cloud and on-premise, that this new evolution that we're going through right now and the power of what agentic software can provide and the operational resilience and simplification that it can bring to our operators and our users is going to be fairly consistent. It's just how you're able to bridge that hybrid visibility problem, which obviously we're very focused on.
Maybe just in finishing, I mean, observability is going to evolve towards intelligent orchestration, and then, as you mentioned, I think, autonomous operations likely. Are there any things that people can be doing now in terms of future-proofing that strategy, or does it very much do what you need to do now and then deal with, the future when that arrives, or say, are there some things they
Yeah.
can be looking out for now?
Yeah. I mean, it's that data cleanliness and consolidating that data foundation. And so AI can't really reason well over fragmented telemetry to a certain extent. So, leaders thinking about their stacks and their environments, prioritize thinking about unified visibility across that hybrid plane, on-premise, cloud, applications, databases, and incident workflows. And then focus on putting that governance in place before autonomy scales. Obviously, you're not going to let things go do stuff autonomously unless you've overcome that trust challenge that we've discussed before. And so that operating or governance layer is going to be really important, which we think a lot about as we construct our solutions for our customers to make sure that we've got control in mind to make sure that they feel less anxious about taking advantage of some of these agentic progressions. And so I'd probably leave it at that. Think about consolidating the data foundation, and then what is your governance policy, and how are you implementing the guardrails within the environment, just to make sure that you can get to that trust level more quickly, and you can get to the point to where you can drive these autonomous workflows with confidence and less anxiety.
And maybe just finally, in terms of where observability sits or should live inside the organization, is there a particular sort of job role, job title that you more often than not encounter as the person that's interested in observability, or because it, potentially spreads right across an organization, it's not necessarily so easy to decide who needs to put their hand up and run the program, if you like?
No, I mean, it spans, I mean, just given the nature of full stack observability across infrastructure, networks, applications, databases, not just observability in the context of accelerating time to detection of issues, but you're also needing to drive and collaborate across teams for accelerating time to remediate those issues, whether those are human teams or agentic teams. And so because it span, I don't know that it's necessarily one person. I do think that you do need this unified kind of consolidated visibility strategy, and consolidated data strategy, consolidated governance strategy, so that those team members actually can work together in harmony on the same data set to be able to maximize that operational resilience. And so I don't know if there's one person, given the span and the reach.
But I guess the good news is it's potentially goes hand in hand with the AI because AI again sort of potentially goes right across the organization. So
That's
is
right.
it fair to say whoever's maybe driving the AI project would be the obvious person to at least sort of have the high level view of the observability program as well?
I think so. I mean, you've got to have kind of a bird's eye view of how you're going to consolidate that data foundation and how you're going to think about that governance layer. And so there's, from a strategic planning standpoint, probably some centralized top-down elements to it. But again, given the span and how you drive that across network infrastructure, applications, databases, incident workflows, et cetera, it'll take coordination amongst many of those teams.
Excellent. I mean, it's been lovely to chat, and thanks, Cullen, for sharing so many great insights into. As I think I bumped it at first when it was AI ops was the bit that I got involved in first, and then obviously it's matured over time, and observability is where it's at now. So it's fascinating to see what's going on, and plenty more to come. So, Cullen, really appreciate your time. Thank you.
You bet. Interesting times. Thank you, Philip.
Thanks.